Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Apex Performance Make Men Great Again podcast, I should say. So this week was a bit of a big week, right? We are really making some waves. I was on a mate's podcast and we spoke about some heavy shit. Got nearly 2 hours in, and then we had to wrap up, and we were like, oh shit, we have hours of content more to do. We have hours of conversation more to go. So I'll probably go back on that. Got into some heavy topics. Went deep down the rabbit hole, which is always fun. The next day, yesterday, I am interviewed by the ABC, which was wild. A little bit of a spin out, but it is also the ABC, so I needed to be a little bit careful because my topics that I talk about obviously aren't for everyone, and especially the ABC is a bit more left winged, a bit more government funded, so I'm not going to go full crazy on it. So I want to sort of discuss that and kind of get in ahead of that, because that won't be released for, I imagine, till the end of the year kind of thing. I don't know, a few months, 6 months, whatever. Uh, but basically, it's a whole thing. It's a whole 3-part series on masculinity and like what's going on with men at the moment, which they obviously saw me as someone that speaks directly to that problem. And I wish I had wrote out my dot points that I wanted to speak about before. I jumped on a call with my sister the day before, who has prepped people for, media training and all that. She's been in advertising for 10 years. So she was like, why are you prepping for this the day before? And I was like, honestly, I think I'll be fine. I was, I was fine, but I wish I really had my points clear. Um, I thought I would just rattle them off, but when you've got 3 cameras and lighting and a boom and all that shit, like major production, it didn't go out the window. Um, but yeah, there were a few things that I wish I didn't. No, not that I wish I didn't say. There are a few things that I wish I had said, and if I had written them down, it would have been better. But I actually just listened to it all back. We had a conversation inside for about 2 hours, and then we went for a drive, and then we came back and sort of wrapped there. The car was more so like the origin story and doing all that, but the kitchen, what I was worried about was like the gotcha moments. Like, hey, you said this, hey, you said that. What do you mean? What do you mean? Which he did try and do, and like I actually really enjoyed the day. The guys were very nice. There wasn't a whole lot of gotcha. I think potentially, and I know this because he said it at the end. Um, and this is the thing. I don't know how it's going to be chopped up. I don't know how it's going to be edited. That's why I recorded it myself, just to make sure. I had a what do you call it? A ring camera inside, and I was recording it on my phone. So like everything is tracked and accounted for, just in case they do decide to take a tiny little clip and then run with that. And it's like, well, actually, there's 3 minutes before that where I'm giving quite a detailed answer, right? So I don't know. I just wanted to protect myself, obviously. But I think what they were expecting was some jacked douchebag that talks about being a man. And then when they got here, like, and this is his own words, like it wasn't that. Like it's a very nuanced conversation. This whole masculinity thing, this whole what's wrong with men, there's a lot of dot points. I've written out 12 dot points, I think. There's probably a bit more, but whatever. On things that I wanted to touch on today, just to clarify in a bit of a, non-edited, from start to finish kind of thing where there are no takes, there are no, nothing. I really just need to pause my little robotic vacuum cleaner because I can hear it coming up the hallway. Just pause. Just pause. Yeah, you're in the wrong room, darling. Just stop what you're doing. Goddamn. Um. So yeah, there were certain thresholds in the conversation that I couldn't get past because I knew that would go down a bit of a rabbit hole. we kind of hit that wall a couple times, and I was like, I'm not actually explaining that any further. If people want to know what things are in play, they can do their own. They can do their own due diligence and do their own research. I speak about it on here. But I think we all know, well, if you listen to this podcast, you at least know, like, there is powers at play here that are trying to make men weak. And I said it on camera, like, if I was in control of a civilization and I wanted people to conform and listen to the government and all that shit, I would make men weak, right? I spoke about the estrogen in the water, right? Which, is that a crazy conspiracy theory or is that a given fact now? Right? Let's look up estrogen in the water supply. 7 News just did a thing on this, but here we go. Estrogen and estrogenic compounds, including natural hormones and synthetic chemicals from birth control, enter the water system via wastewater and agricultural runoff. While commonly detected in surface waters, and studies indicate that these are it's okay. So this says, oh, it's safe to it's removed, but you read something else and it's so okay. So that little segment, which came off Google AI, right? Is it controlled? Who knows? It says that yes, they are in the water. Now this says, oh, and it's removed by advanced treatment. No, they're fucking not. No, they're not. It isn't actually treated in the plants. And there has been fish, and this is the whole, oh, the water's making the frogs gay thing, it was crazy 10 years ago when it was said, but now it's come out like, oh, no, that's actually true. Like, there are fish and frogs that when you dissect them, they have both genitalia because the hormones in the water, the estrogen in the water, makes these frogs and fish grow ovaries and female reproduction parts, and that is what we are drinking. Why do you think, like, water filters are such an important thing? Why do you think people are like, oh, drink bottled water, don't drink tap water? Like, that is why. It's not the fucking fluoride. I haven't actually gone down the whole fluoride rabbit hole, but I'm aware that there is estrogen and trace amounts of chlorine, right? Because I remember I did a lot of coke one day, and when you've done that much coke and your alkaline levels are way off, you can pick up the 0.00001%. This was back in addiction, by the way. This wasn't like yesterday. And you can smell the chlorine in the water because your alkaline levels are so off that you can pick it up. It's a very weird thing. I highly don't recommend doing that much cocaine. But on to better things now. So we spoke about that. Like I said, is that pretty out there? I don't think so. But I said, look, I'm not going to go into all that. Do your own research, right? Testosterone has come down 1% every year since the 1980s or something. Thanks, Uncle Tony and Auntie Jess. Ah, cute little baby photo. So, there are powers at play here, and that's where we kind of hit that roadblock. He's like, well, who are these? What are these powers? Who are they? And I think that's what he may be trying to have got at. And I was like, look, I'm not having that conversation here. I will happily have that on a podcast with one of the boys. I'm not going to have that conversation with a documentary that is going on ABC, right? A typically left government-funded channel, right? You know what I mean? You pick your battles in life, I think. And if I came off as crazy, which, look, they can take all the little clips where I did say, I don't want my missus to work. Like, I would prefer her to stay at home with our children. They could run with that. And then they could put the bit about the fucking estrogen in the water. Who knows? Who knows how it's going to come out? But I do have the whole audio. So we'll see. But there are a few talking points that I did want to touch on. But when it was just wrapping up what I was saying, the powers at play, like, look, you're either so far in the system, so far psyoped by it all, that you don't actually understand what's going on. And they're the kind of people that'll be like, oh, you're crazy. And it's like, you just need to wake up a little bit. Like, there's woke on the left and then there's woke on the right. The woke on the left are like, yay, trans people, and like, we all have equality, and like 180 kilo woman is beautiful, yay. And then the woke on the right is like, we know how the world works. We know who is really in control of the Western world. And we understand that big pharma is also influencing big food because, like, here's a fun fact. Go and look up who heavily invests in big pharma, like the top 10 stakeholders. Then look up see if they have any investments in big food. Why would they invest in big food? It's typically owned by the same conglomerate as well, owned by the same people, because the food makes you sick. And look, we're a little bit better off in Australia than America, but the food makes you sick, which they profit off, and then the medicine makes you, quote unquote, better. So that's a whole thing, and I didn't want to get into that yesterday because that would, draw a line in the sand for a lot of people. The main thing was, are men in, what was the word? Is masculinity in a crisis? And listening back, I kind of danced around the subject. I said, like, yes and no. Like, I wouldn't call it it's not like a pandemic. But after sitting on it and reflecting it, and I really wish I had 24 hours to actually process it. But I believe they are. Based on the conversations that I have and the statistics that I have from my own personal experience of running my business and helping men, here are the numbers. I have roughly 250 to 300 people reach out to me every single week through my DMs, right? They click on an ad, they click, want to lose weight, want to build muscle, want to work on myself. My message obviously speaks to them. They want to work on themselves. I'm signing up 5 to 6% of that. Now, little side note for the business, the goal is to get that to 10%. We're working on that. But even at 10%, number one, there is a big issue that there is 200 to 300 men reaching out saying, hey, I need help, right? 70% of Australian men are overweight, right? If you look at the average man, the modern man, he would be overweight, underpaid, living below his means, not enjoying his life. He would be, taking shit or drinking or addicted to porn, and that's the average. So even the fact that there's so many people reaching out for coaching, that is an issue, right? But it's a good thing. They're actually reaching out. That's the top of the buying pyramid, that is the 3% that are actually ready to go, right? Then you've got 20% that are problem aware, but they're not doing anything. Then you've got, I'm not doing anything and I don't even know that there's a problem. And then there's the blissfully unaware that kind of think, I'm fat, I'm not doing anything about it. This is the way I am. So there is a lot of fucking people that need help. So that's an issue. But then the fact that only 5 to 6% of those people that have reached out, that would be my bigger issue. You have reached out, 300 people have reached out saying, I need help, and only 10 to 15 of them actually sign up, right? So that is 10% of the people that actually want help actually have the balls and the means to actually go after it. That becomes an issue. Where is the motivation? Where is the discipline? It is, I want the thing, right? Before all that, there's the people that are like, I don't even want the thing. I don't even care. I don't have goals. I don't want to be better. They're fucked. They're inherently fucked. Then you've got the people that are like, I need help, but I don't want to do anything about it. I want the thing, but I'm not going to do the work. I want the Lamborghini, but I'm not going to get a job. I want to lose weight, but I don't want to train, right? Those people are even fucking worse, because you know that there's something to do and you won't do anything about it. And then there's the people that say, I have a fucking problem and I need to change, and you're the one that's going to help me do that. I love those people. Let's go. Let's get results. That's fantastic. They're the kind of people that I speak to, right? My content is not going to be for everyone, right? There is women that post about feminist shit and loving your body at 120 kilos. they're not going to like my shit. I'm not going to like their shit. And that's absolutely fine. I think this was a big takeaway that they took away from me yesterday. Like, I'm not like, fuck those people, they need to die. I'm like, that's fine, do your fucking thing. Like, I am focused on the people that I can help. I'm trying to talk to men that actually want to change. I'm trying to talk to men that want to become successful. This whole idea about 50-50 and stepping up as a man and being successful, like, that is going to upset people on the left, right? It's going to upset people that are a bit more of a like modern and woke and somewhere in the middle there. But that's fine. If you don't want to be the man that steps up, that's, you know, it's, to me, look, it's not fine, but that's fine. Like, I'm not even going to focus on it. I'm focusing on the people that hear my shit and they're like, yeah, I want to do that. Because deep down, I think every single man wants to be the man, right? No boy grows up being like, yeah, I want my missus to, like, you know, provide me with things. And no, typically, I'm sure there's someone that grows up like that. Like, there's a lot of people in the world. Typically, men grow up wanting to be the man. They want to feel important and valued in their own house and in their relationship. And I think a lot of men get that from being a provider, being able to offer security. And like, you look through time, that is what we did. So he asked me a question like, okay, well, I grew up, this is the guy talking, well, I grew up kind of hearing about equality and thinking that, like, you know, we should do 50-50. Like, that's been the influence that I've had. And that's fine. Like, everyone's individual mindset, individual beliefs are based off the things that they have sort of been fed and bought into and all that. So that's fine that he has those beliefs. Absolutely fine. But he then said, so what you're pushing is kind of like an old way to look at it, right? Like, the modern thing is to be 50-50. I wouldn't say it's an old thing. I wouldn't say it's an old, outdated, oh, that's so old school, blah, blah, blah. It's just traditional, right? These aren't old school things. These are traditional things. Maybe they are old school to you, but to me, it's a traditional thing. And it's something that I wish I touched on yesterday, because I didn't actually touch on this at all. But a lot of what I preach is obviously taking responsibility and stepping up as a man and being like, having these traditional values, because these traditional values is what I think made men great, right? If you worked hard and were disciplined and took care of yourself and your family and your children and your wife, like, you took care of everyone, that's like a traditional thing, right? So there were actually a lot more crossovers yesterday than I think that they thought that there was going to be. And he literally said at the end of the day, he was like, oh man, it's funny, like, who you are on your videos, like, it's quite different who you are in life. And I was like, you thought I was going to be an asshole, hey? And he was like, yeah, kinda. I said, look, like, obviously what I post, it's 60 seconds, it's 90 seconds, it's 2 minutes. I can't get into the nitty gritty. I can't actually get across every single thing that I believe in. And he suggested, hey, why don't you do longer form content where you can explain it? And I was like, that's not a bad idea. Like, I do have a podcast, but I also, so I've got some things, and then I'll keep riffing, but these will take a while to get through. So, are men in a crisis? Absolutely, my numbers show it, right? So yes, I think men are in a crisis. There is a lot of men that have a lack of purpose, a lack of drive. I actually think the whole feminism thing has made men step back, right? Over the last 20 years, women have been empowered and they have purpose and they're in the workforce and all of that. But a lot of men have seen that and gone, oh, well, cool, I don't need to put in as much work. Right? Because instead of being like, oh shit, I need to do all the work, I need to be the man, I need to provide, I need to lead, it's like, oh, well, if she does it as well, then cool, we're all good. But the issue that I see is that if a man is busting his ass 10 hours a day on a building site, he wants to come home and, like, you know, have a meal and have a clean house and the traditional role is like, I take care of outside the house, you take care of inside the house, which it's actually not really what I do. Like, I cook, I clean the house, I make sure the lawns are mowed, which is technically outside the house. But, and this is what people don't see. Like, I try and make Jess's life, my missus, my wife now, I try and make her life as carefree and as enjoyable as possible, because femininity, femininity is one of the most beautiful things in the world. Like, a child's innocence and femininity in a woman that's what men are here to do. We are here to protect that, right? And I believe that if a woman has to be this, step into a masculine role, like, you meet a chick that's been single for 10 years and has like built a business and like, or built a career and had to pay all the bills and fight all the battles herself, she is typically a very, she's quite masculine. She would have her walls up. She's very defensive, and she wouldn't have a whole lot of femininity until she would meet a more masculine man that can actually allow her to be in her feminine, right? Because relationships work when there is a feminine energy and a masculine energy. Sometimes, traditionally, it's, the man's the man and the woman's the woman. But even gay couples, like, there is a more feminine man and there is a more masculine man, right? Even in some relationships, the roles are flipped, right? The woman is the breadwinner and she's more masculine and all that shit. And then the man is like, stay at home, and like, he is a little bit more feminine. But sometimes they do, it does flip flop a little bit in that case. Even if I were to lose my job, if my business were to crumble tomorrow, I'm sure Jess would step up and like take care of the bills. But as a man, I do not want her to have to worry about that and wear that burden, because as a man, I am attracted to femininity, right? That is the thing about women that we like. We like the fact that they're feminine, right? Otherwise, we'd just stick to boys, right? Stick to men. So we like femininity, and that, one moment. Yeah, and that is why we're attracted to women. I think deep down as well, like, whether this is in our DNA or whatever, like, women are also attracted to a masculine man. I've seen it firsthand where a woman is like, oh damn, look at that guy, and like, he's very like jacked or masculine, and like, it was a cowboy in Wyoming, if you must know. It wasn't Jess, which was good. I feel like she has it covered with the whole, having a masculine man in her life. I would like to claim that. But I have seen a married woman be like, fantasize about this cowboy, right? And it was just a little throwaway comment, and me and Jess were like, that's weird. But it just goes to show, like, every woman every now and then is attracted to a masculine man, right? Women that are weird, like, even if the woman is super masculine, there will come a time where she just wants a fucking man. She just wants a man to take the lead, take control, and be a man, so that she can, for once in her fucking life, be in her feminine. Right? And these are this isn't me saying it. This is what I've been told by women. Very strong, independent, single for a long time women that are like, my relationships don't work because I've been in my masculine energy for so many years, providing and building, that I find it hard to let a man lead. Like, I feel like I open the door for him, right? And it doesn't last, because that would be quite emasculating for a man. So whether it's honestly nothing to do with gays or like anything like that. Like, there is different energies, and that's absolutely fine. I guess I was saying my shit's not for everyone. So coming back to that, like, no, I was talking about the 50-50 thing. So a lot of men would want that feeling of providing, right? And caretaking. So yes, I think having to go 50-50 with your missus, like there is different situations for everyone. I get that not everyone can do that yet, but if it makes you feel bad, or if you don't care, you don't care. But if I say something and it triggers you, then it's like, okay, well, maybe you actually do want to be the sole provider and you want, like, obviously she can chip in and do all that. Like, that's what Jess does. I pay for everything, but she, like, gets dinner here and there or comes home with groceries because she still works. But I'm like, don't worry about the bills. Like, I got that shit. Um, it's pretty much my money is her money and her money is her money, right? It's that whole thing, and I'm happy with that. Like that's absolutely fine. That's how I can provide. Um, but I think the whole 50-50 thing is just a end result of the work of like inflation and all that shit because 100K doesn't actually get you far anymore, right? Like 100K, you can't support a family of two and your wife at home, and like daycare alone is very fucking expensive. So I understand why people do the 50-50, but if you don't like it, then do something about it. This is everything. If my shit upsets you when I say, don't be a fat cunt and you're overweight and it upsets you, do something about it. And I think that's the overarching message of my content. Like, if you don't like something, fucking change it. If you don't like the way you look, or you don't like the relationship energies going on, right? If you don't feel like the man, and like, I maybe is it my own insecurities as growing up as a little skinny, feminine little boy? Because I've said before, like I was a complete bitch. Like I bought into the propaganda. Like I understand why some guys are like, oh, let me go check with my missus, because if I had continued on the same path when I was young, I'd probably do the same. But instead, I stepped the fuck up as a man, and now I'm like, you can do whatever you want. Jess spent $1,200 yesterday. She just spent another $1,200 today. She paid for it with her own account yesterday, and I was like, no, that's fucked. So I transferred her 1,200. I was like, fuck that. Like, you don't pay for your things. I pay for your things. Fuck it. I can do that. And that makes me feel good. That gives me value in myself, right? So some people will look at that as however the fuck they want. That's absolutely fine. Going back to that main message, like, if it inspires you to do better, cool. That's what I'm doing it for. If you get upset, that's fine. Maybe is it upset enough to actually change? Cool. That's inspiring as well. That's motivating you, but through a different means. I've pissed you off. Sometimes you need to be pissed off in order to make shit change. But if it's not right for you, it's not right for you. That's absolutely fine. And this is the conversation that we had yesterday, and I think he kind of left like, oh, shit. I think I was meant to be portrayed as this like super douchey, like in the Manosphere documentary, that whole tiki-toki guy. Like that guy's a fucking douchebag. Like, like I said, I cook. I treat my missus like a, I treat my missus like a fucking princess. She doesn't lift a finger if I can help it, right? If I can do it, I will. Like I said, I want her femininity to be, intact, right? She sees the beautiful things in the world. She's a very bright, bubbly person, and I like that. I don't want her to be squished by stress and worrying about shit. So I wear that burden. So I don't agree with, the whole toxic bullshit, and I don't like the whole toxic masculinity thing, but I will agree there are some men that, like, yes, they may be a good role model in one area. They're not great role models in everything, right? Andrew Tate, gym, discipline, motivation, business, great mentor. But if you're trying to have a family, you probably wouldn't take his advice on dating and trying to impregnate 50 different women, right? And that's absolutely fine. I wouldn't go to some billionaire that's fat as fuck for fitness advice, right? But I'd go to him about investing advice or business advice, right? So you can have different influences for different reasons. You can like 50% of someone's shit and not like the other. Like, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to take what someone says as gospel, right? Nick Fuentes says some fucking hilarious shit. I love a lot of his views, but I don't love everything that he says. And that's fine. That's fine. Why was I saying this? I don't know. But you definitely don't need to buy into everything that someone says. Moving on with my notes. Men want to be caretakers, providers. It's one of the most masculine things that you can do. And I believe that if a man doesn't have that, he will feel a lack of purpose. That is true. I've kind of touched on this already, but I think a lot of men want to be that provider. And if they're not, right, if they don't live up to that, then they're going to feel shit. But the beautiful thing is you can take responsibility for it and you can change it. You can do whatever it is in your life that you want, right? One of the really cool things that I've got going on is, and I think I've said this before, when I first got into personal development, I wrote this big scary number on a piece of paper and I was like, if I make that per week, I'm fucking set. I'm killing it. And last year, 18 months ago, I was like, oh, shit, I'm doing that. And now officially I'm doing 4 times that number, right? So I've multiplied it by 4, right? So that's pretty cool. Now I've made it like, all right, well, let's get to like 50 grand a week. And then I'm sure I'll hit that one day, probably a lot fucking sooner than anticipated. But when I hit that original number, I was like, oh shit, I need to set bigger goals because I didn't actually think I'd achieve it. That was like, oh, if I do that, that'll be fucking game over. And I ended up doing it a lot quicker than I thought. So even the developments we're doing, we've gone from building 6 houses and we're going to make $1 million in 12 months to now building out 14 commercial spaces where we're going to turn a $10 million investment into $38 million, right? Like the fuck. That'll take like 3 years, but what's that? 28 million over 3 years. So it's, I don't know. What's that? 8? No, my maths is off. But yeah, like it's crazy what you can do when you actually go after things. But you need that purpose. I got a little bit off track. Men are in a place where excuses are running rampant. Instant gratification is chased. Right. I did mention this in the podcast a lot, or in the documentary a lot. Men, we all suffer from like TikTok brain, instant gratification, instant dopamine, and as someone that has, overcome anxiety, depression, was a drug addict, like I get it more than anyone. Like I literally took the most instant gratifying thing in the world, which was drugs. And I get it. It is easier to do the easy thing than it is to do the hard thing. It is easier to just accept defeat and distract yourself every day than it is to actually go after what you want. And genuinely, I think that that's what's wrong with men. Instead of going after what they want, it seems a little bit hard. I remembered what I got off topic before. I was talking about male influences, right? So there is, the whole toxic masculinity thing. I'm jumping all over the place. Going back to what I was saying, instead of doing the easy thing and distracting yourself, and instead of not going to the gym, you actually go to the gym. Instead of eating the shit food, you stick to the meal plan. Instead of coming home and watching Netflix, you start the business and you start up a bit of a side hustle and you become successful. Like you need to start to actually take action on the things that you want, right? You need to, instead of doing the quick, easy, distracting, quick dopamine hit, you need to actually start building your life and start going after the things that you want, right? Because I guarantee you can achieve whatever the fuck it is that you want, and I am an example of that, right? Going back to the influencers. So they did ask me, like, what is your take on the manosphere? And I was like, look, I detest the word. I hate the whole toxic masculinity thing. I don't even like when someone says, oh yeah, bro, he's not alpha. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like if you have to like claim yourself as alpha, it's super gay. Like if someone else calls you that, that's fine. But like my example that I said in the documentary, like lions don't walk around telling other people that they're lions, right? People just know. So I don't like talking about masculinity because, It is like it's something that you just are. But realistically, it is something that you can build, and there are things that you need to outline. And there's obviously a big conversation of like, what is masculinity? So this is at least my version of it. Someone else will be like, oh, it's having the ability to fucking whatever. I don't think you should block out emotions. That isn't like just be hard and like all that. It isn't ignoring your emotions. It's actually doing the work necessary to overcome them and deal with them and process them. I think emotional intelligence and emotional mastery is one of the most masculine things that you can do. Because if you can't control your emotions, then you're essentially a very reactive person. If something bad happens, you're going to react to it. If something good happens, you're going to react to it. If something terrible happens, you're going to, right? So your actions will change based on a feeling. And as a man, no one actually gives a fuck about your feelings. If you're sad, who cares? There's still work to do, right? If you're angry, cool, turn it into motivation. Like, that's what I mean by emotional mastery. You need to be bigger than your emotions, because emotions are very surface level. And when there's work to do, there's work to do, right? So coming back to the manosphere and influencers and like that TikToky guy and Tate and all that, there are people that you will take different bits of advice off. Me, for example, like you might take advice of like fitness and like business and relationship stuff, but you're probably not going to take equestrian advice off me, although I have been riding for 3 years. But like, I don't know what it comes down to if you're trying to be like an Olympic dressage rider, right? I know very basic Western riding stuff, right? My knowledge is there, but it's not, get a lesson off an actual fucking trained rider. You wouldn't come to me for advice on arts and crafts or like painting, right? So there's the different people for the different field. You might really like someone, right? If you really like this director, but then he ends up being a fucking pedophile, yeah, you're probably not going to like him as much anymore. You may agree with his artworks, but you're not going to, or his movies, but you're not like taking everything he says as gospel. So that's a big thing that people need to realize. And I think the issue with young men, and this was a big topic yesterday that honestly we didn't even cover, but I think we did, which is good. But I think a lot of young men are growing up with a shit influence in their life, in which case they turn to people online, right? That was a question that I don't actually know if it was answered, but if you are a young man and your dad is overweight and a complete bitch and gets bossed around by your mum, you're probably going to be like, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like dad. I've had multiple conversations with men that are like, well, I actually didn't really like my dad growing up, and I've realized that 20 years later, I've turned up like him, right? Like I smoke, I drink, I'm fat. I don't like it, so I need to change. I became the person I didn't want to be. And I'm like, fuck, that's deep. But if you have a shit influence in your life as a young man, then you will turn online, or it will just be fed to you, because you'll be like, oh, create an Instagram account, boom, 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 boom. Like, be a man, work hard. And those two things are very good, right? But there is also the bad influences, right? There is the let's hate women, let's, be just absolute assholes to everyone. Like, I met this guy in Bali and he was like, yeah, man, like I'm the guy. What did he call himself? I'm that guy. And like, I could just tell he was such a douchebag. I was like, shut the fuck up. You are the issue of like masculinity. So I get that there's like masculinity and toxic masculinity. My rebuttal to him yesterday was like, take feminism, right? There is good feminism, right? Equal rights, equal pay. Sweet, cool. Then there's feminism gone too far. You would deem it toxic feminism, right? That hate men, that say you shouldn't have babies, that say you should build a career, that say, Bonnie Blue, for example, I'm going to sleep with 1,000 guys in a day. I can do whatever I want. It's my body. Like, that's, to me, toxic feminism. And toxic masculinity only exists because toxic feminism exists, right? If they both went away, then it'd be somewhere in the middle. And I feel like I'm a pretty good middle ground, right? Like, you can do what you want, you can work and shit, but I'm also going to create the space for my family and my wife where if she doesn't want to work, she doesn't need to work, right? If she wants to stay home with the kids and be a part of their life growing up instead of working a corporate job for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I'm going to offer that, right? So there is middle ground. And it is important for young men to realize this, and this is where the long format conversation stuff comes in. Because if you were to watch a video with Andrew Tate that's like, women can't drive, they're useless, and blah, 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 you got to realize it's a business, right? Clicks is attention, attentions is currency, and actual, if you can monetize it, then it's actual currency. But if you were to watch a long form podcast with Andrew Tate for 2 hours, you'd be like, oh, okay, he actually loves women and respects women. He just likes to tell jokes that women can't drive. Because really, if we were to pull up the statistics, I watched that video today where a lady in a fucking massively lifted four-wheel drive, Ram drives up the top of a Lamborghini. Who jumped out? A woman. The only way it would get better if it was, an Asian woman. But these are funny jokes, right? This isn't super offensive stuff. It's just a funny joke. Do you know how racist Asian people are? Very racist. So we got to chill out a little bit with the whole, oh, you can't say that. Shut the fuck up. It's funny, right? But there's a difference between an actual belief, women are useless, women, are just the scum of the earth. That's not the actual belief. The belief is it's just a fucking funny joke. So people may watch my shit, and this is my issue with the whole manosphere, and my issue with that actual documentary on Netflix was it will group everyone that talks about masculinity as this toxic version, right? Because it's oh, here's this guy that believes this, here's another guy that talks about the same thing, but they might not believe the same shit. They talk about being a man, but they're not. It's like if there's one feminist that's talking about, equal pay, and then they put them next to Bonnie Blue, do they believe in the same things? Maybe at a certain level, but then they will go completely different, a couple layers in, right? So that's a very important thing for kids to know. And I took yesterday as a little bit of a learning curve, because I asked them, I was like, all right, well, you obviously saw my shit and made all these, assumptions about me. And then you met me and you're like, oh, he's actually not a piece of shit. So it's what can I do better to kind of portray my message? And they were like, well, you got to realize you got kids watching your shit. My rebuttal to that is well, my ads literally only target people over the age of 20. I don't want young people watching my shit. I don't think if I get a 12-year-old message me and say, hey, I need to lose weight, I'm like, bro, go be a fucking kid. Maybe eat less cake and drink less chocolate milk and go run around more. But be a kid. You shouldn't be worrying about this shit. But on the same side of that, I'm like, cool, little guy has goals. Something that they brought up yesterday, I said that no one is coming to save you. And that, as a man, no one is coming to save you. And, life as a man is a battle. And I genuinely believe that. No one actually gives a shit about your excuses and what you tell yourself that has held you back for the last 20 years. That may have worked for the first few months on other people, right? Oh, well, yeah, I did my shoulder back when I was 20 and now I've put on a bunch of weight. People may have felt bad for you for the first 3 months. Now they're just patting you on the back. You're probably just that annoying, whining little cunt that no one actually wants to hang out with. We all know people like that. I'll be the one to actually tell them though, right? And it's not me trying to be mean. It's me trying to help them, obviously. But I think we all know someone like that. But no one actually cares about your excuse. Your mum and your missus and the women in your life might be like, oh, poor you, poor you. That's a big issue with the feminine energy. When a man becomes super feminine, that's when he does get a bit soft and he does, I feel like women care about that shit. If you complain and tell them your excuses, they'll feel sorry for you. If something bad happened to me right now, I would call my mum, not my dad, because my dad would be like, okay, he'd actually give a shit. But men are a little bit more black and white, right? If a kid, let's look at it like this. if you have a son and he falls over, the mum is gonna go and hug him and kiss him, and the dad will be like, okay, let's take a lesson from this, right? Maybe we don't run with our eyes closed. Maybe we don't, or just the old school shit. Dust it off. Drink a bit of concrete, you pussy. That's real aggressive, but they're different approaches, and both have their different positives and negatives and all that kind of shit. But yeah, it's a different kind of thing. What else did I have in my notes? Well, people don't see. Yeah, I've said all that. Something, I guess the big thing to take away from all that is going back to the kids. Like, once there's a longer format conversation, then you can actually get into the more minute stuff, the more nuanced stuff, and have this conversation. But when you are posting on Instagram, like, it's you've got to get your message across quick, and that's what people don't realize. Like, what I post is for a business. What anyone posts is typically there's some trail down to some monetary thing. It doesn't mean that it's for show. It doesn't mean, well, some people do it for show, but these are my genuine beliefs. But I'm not going to post what have I been doing now? 46 minutes, right? I'm not going to be posting a 46-minute video on Instagram and being like, hey, this is actually what I mean by all that. Like, when I say be a man, I'm not saying, hey, like, you should be a cunt. That's not at all what I'm saying. They're actually quite taken back when I said, talking about how, life as a man is a bit of a battle. And then that Jess's number one saying is, it's nice to be nice. And I like that because it makes me be nicer, right? That drives me to be nicer. I will do nicer things. I will try and be a nice person. I will do little acts of kindness because Jess is in my life, right? But they were quite taken back by that. They were like, oh, well, how do those two things coexist? I said, well, just because you're trying to win the battle of life doesn't mean you have to be a cunt. Like, you can still be fighting the battle and putting in the work and being a man and grinding, but like, don't be a cunt, right? You can still be nice and be living in this world where, it is a battle and no one cares about your feelings, and like, do the work. It doesn't mean you be an asshole along the way, right? And that's what I think a lot of people get that twisted. And I honestly think a lot of people that are under pressure, like, that's when you aren't super nice. So maybe it's like, hey, well, focus on becoming successful then. And maybe if your needs are met, maybe this is the main message. If your needs are met, then you'll actually be nice, right? Whereas if your needs aren't met, then, like, you ever, I don't know, been in a line waiting for something at like Kmart and everyone's just being an asshole. Everyone's like grumpy and it's because, low socioeconomic store. Everyone's rushed. Everyone's like, if it's before Christmas or something, like, everyone's an asshole. Maybe that happens, at the line at Nobu or some shit as well on a different kind of level. But I think if your needs are met, then you can actually be nice. But don't forget to be nice on the way up, right? What else have I got? Testosterone is at an all-time low. There is an attack on masculinity. The rise of feminism has, unfortunately, for a lot of men, led to the fall of men. I believe that, do your own research with the whole testosterone thing, but men these days have lower testosterone than ever before. And the issue with that is that when men become weak, when men become like all feminized and shit and feminine, then society starts to break down, right? We've seen some fucked up shit over the last few years with, someone's missus getting mugged and attacked right in front of them, and children getting abducted in the street, and like, just awful things that happen in the world because men aren't these strong masculine men anymore. And coming back to that like toxic masculine thing, people have commented on my stuff before. I'm talking about being a man. They're like, oh, this guy beats his missus and whatever. Or like they claim. I obviously don't. But that's not masculine. If you do domestic violence, you are a very weak man. It is a very weak kind of man that would hit a woman. It is a very weak kind of man that would abandon his children. So really, like, I think as a man, it is your duty to be strong and disciplined and capable so that you can protect your family and provide for your family. And if men did do that, if men did step up, then I guarantee children's lives will be better, women's lives will be better. Like, you wouldn't have all this like child homelessness because their dad abandoned them. You wouldn't have as much domestic violence because, let's face it, if there was 5 true men and one guy like bashed his missus, the 5 true men would go and bash the shit out of him, right? So it's kind of your job as a man to, and this is like, not even, me just saying this now, this is like a historical thing, right? Men have always protected women because, that we are physically stronger. We are physically stronger than children too. So you are the provider, you are the protector. It gets a little twisted these days, but like, yeah, that whole rise of feminism has then led to a lot of men taking that step back, right? And maybe it is because a lot of men are like, well, fuck it. If I'm not going to be respected and like treated like the man, well, then why? Like, I know a lot of men that do that, or I know of a lot of men that do that. Like, they will feel emasculated and they're like, well, why would I put in all this extra effort if I don't get respected in my own household, right? A lot of men want to feel like the man, but if they don't feel like the man because they're not providing to a certain level, so then the missus has to step up and like go get a job, and then like it's 50-50, and he comes home and he wants, a nice cooked meal and a clean house, but the house is a mess and no one made dinner because she's at work 8 hours a day as well, then people are going to be upset. So all of this shit, like, the only thing that you then can do is become successful, is work on yourself, is work on your body and work on your mindset and slowly start to become this person, this man of value. And that's like the whole thing. All these roads, all these different roads of like, what's wrong with man and all this shit going on, it all just comes back to like, okay, we can sit here and we can point it out, and it's very overwhelming, right? It's super overwhelming. And a lot of people will be like, oh, well, fuck it, I just give up, right? And that's the cycle. You kind of realize, say fuck it, and then eventually you start taking action because you're like, well, if nothing's going to change, I may as well actually take responsibility and change it. So I think it's a 3-phase thing, or 4-phase. Blissfully unaware, problem aware, give up, and then you actually do something about it because you're like, well, I'm only 20. I can't just give up for 60 years, right? And then you finally do something about it. And that is where, as a man, you work on your body, you work on your mindset, you start studying and learning all the things, and you network and you have discipline, and you get up early and you train and you work and you keep working into the night, and like, you actually put in this effort to achieve what you want in life. But you also need to figure out what it is that you want, right? You do need clarity. You do need a vision. Otherwise, good luck trying to come up with anything. Like, you do need to get very clear on what you want. It's the first start. It's the first thing that we do in the Mindset Mastery course, where we actually get super clear on what you want your life to look like in 5, 10, 20 years. Because then you can start to go, okay, well, what are the things I need to do? Who is the man that I need to be? What are the beliefs that I need? What are the actions I need to take? What will come up that I need to learn how to overcome? It's a whole thing. And that is the Mindset Mastery course. And that is why my clients do get such good results, because I don't just go, here's a meal plan, here's a training plan. We actually work on your mindset. We actually work on your habits and your discipline and the way you think and everything, so that we can have real lasting change. What I was saying before about coming back to the whole men thing, it's more of a generational issue. I know I'm flip-flopping a lot. I'm still going through these dot points. Um, it's more of a generational issue as well. Like I said, if you're a kid and you wake up and you like one day you see the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis and you're influenced by those things, and then you don't have a good male role model in your life, you will start to gravitate towards these other role models, which I think is a beautiful thing. You just need guidance around the right ones, right? I have had different coaches, I have had different mentors, I have had different influences. And when I was younger, before all this, I was heavily influenced by like Aussie rap music, which is just do drugs, sell drugs. What do you think I did? Right? So you are a product of the things that you consume. You are a product of the influences in your life. If you consume and influenced by a bunch of bullshit, then it's not going to turn out too well. But you need to be careful with the influences that you choose. Someone may have very good business ethics and business values and discipline and strong and everything like that, but you shouldn't take everything that they say to like as gospel, because they might not be leading you to the right area that you want for that area of your life. So don't be afraid to have different influences in your life for different things. I think it's super important to point out that what I say isn't super controversial. A lot of men actually see what I say as common sense. I was asked about the whole 50-50 thing, and when he was talking about it, he said it was quite old and outdated. I said all this. Okay, so kind of wrapping up that little bit right there. What I say isn't super controversial. To the wrong people, sure, but what they are saying would be super controversial to me. If a chick was like, oh, I slept with 7 dudes in a week while I was in Europe, I would be like, that's fucking disgusting. That's quite controversial. But like some subsect of women, I'm sure there's a lot, will be like, yeah, go you, like you own your body and all that shit. And that's fine. I hope I never come into contact with you, or I hope my son never falls in love with you, or, I will protect myself and my family from that, because that is not the kind of standards that I would want. But I'm aware that those things exist, and while we may not we may not agree, it doesn't need to be some massive disagree, yelling, argumentative thing. That's what's wrong with politics. That you got right and the left, and they all just yell, and it's like, look, you're all just fucking distracted while the people at the top kind of dance around and take your money, right? So what I say, it's actually not super controversial to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that think of what I'm saying, and it's not like this old school, outdated, like, my take isn't a woman can't work. My take is, if she doesn't want to, you should be allowed to provide the space where she doesn't have to, right? If a woman at the end of the day wants to come home and feel like a fucking woman, then you need to step the fuck up and allow her to be in her feminine, right? And this is based off conversations that I have had with women. This isn't just Ryan ranting. So it's a very nuanced conversation. I obviously, like I said, I did the stuff yesterday. We filmed the episode yesterday. I had time to actually think about it, and then I was mowing the lawns this morning, and I was like, okay, I wish I had actually talked about this. So this is me sort of explaining what I wanted to explain and really getting it all out. But even yesterday, like it's not like I butchered it or anything. I was just not as certain, because I was thinking of these things off the top of my head, and I don't think that's ever a great place to be. But I think they were quite taken back by the fact that I wasn't some, just jacked douchebag that's like, yeah, get my wife in the kitchen. Ugh. I was like, dude, like, I'm in the kitchen fucking 5 days a week, right? That's just what it's what works. I know how to cook, right? So I like to cook dinner. So yeah, I guess that's kind of it. Everyone has their own different, unique view of the world. This is some grade A shit that I said. I thought about it the day before, but So everyone has their own viewpoint, or everyone has their own lens at which in which they see the world, right? Your own beliefs, your own values, your experiences in life, everything that's happened to you, good and bad. That makes all of your beliefs and references, which are self beliefs and like limiting beliefs and references. That's all stuff that we talk about in the Mindset Mastery course, which I'm gonna circle back to. But like the lens that you see the world through is individual for you. You have 10 different people in the world, 10 different people in a room. They will agree on certain different topics, but like their lens is individual for them. So they will not, by definition, agree on 100% the same thing, right? Because they're different people. They have different experiences, different everything. So I have created a lens that allows me to like thrive in my own little world, right? I don't believe in excuses. I don't believe, like, I grew up in a house where no wasn't an answer. Where, sorry, that that sounds really bad. Where I grew up in a house where I can't isn't a word. Can't wasn't a word in my house. It was more, there's a problem, let's find a solution, right? And maybe like there's a few things that I'm sure I do that if I sat down with a therapist, he'd be like, that's a coping mechanism. I'm like, sure. As would the therapist has things in his life that is a coping mechanism. Like, it's not pointing out people's flaws and be like, oh, you're fucked. Everyone has their own things that allows them to achieve their own list of needs that they need. You should look into the 5 basic human needs. Not like food and water and shit, more like value and it's a whole Tony Robbins thing. But we create this reality, we create this lens to give us value in our own world, and that's going to be different from person to person. So if what I say offends people or upsets people, like that's fine. It's not meant for you. I try and talk to the people, the men specifically, that want to do well, that want to exceed, that want to be a provider, that see my shit where I'm talking about being a man and taking lead. And my main thing is like be a man that can provide, protect, and lead his family, right? So if that hits home for other people, then they reach out. And the crazy thing is, like, I have more people reach out now that I talk about this kind of stuff than I did when I was talking about calories and low calorie food and high protein food and all that shit. I need to throw it in there sometimes because at the end of the day, I sometimes forget that I'm a fitness coach, but it's also a lot more than that, right? And this is where we talk mindset and discipline and coming up with a strategy to actually achieve the life that you want and become the man that you need to be. And that's really what coaching is. Like, you've got the training and the nutrition, you've got direct contact with me throughout the whole thing. So if you have questions, if you need help, if you're starting to sort of slip up a little bit, I'll reach out and see what's going on. We do weekly check-ins. There's the Mindset Mastery course. I've got an emotional mastery course or an emotional intelligence course, building out a course on money and like understanding money a little bit more. There's another more of a mind frame course. So like the mind frame that you need to build in order to be successful, because there is mindset mastery, which is more doing the deep work. And then there's like helping you build the actual mental model that you need to become successful. 2 different things. And it's really good. It changes a lot of lives. It helps a lot of people. And I've helped a lot of people over the years. So obviously it's working. And yes, there is a crisis in men. Like I said at the start of this, my numbers show it. I think a lot of men have lost that purpose and drive and discipline, and they don't have clarity on what they want in life. And my goal is to help men achieve it. So really, this is what I should have said yesterday. I don't know. I don't even remember what I said, but that is the main thing. So I just wanted to put this out there as a little bit of this is my beliefs, this is my stance, a once and all answering it. It's also a good podcast episode, so I'll clip it, I'll use it. But if you do want to change your life, if you do want to step up as a man and become the man that can lead, provide, and protect for his family, then go to apexcoaching.com.au/watch this. Go to my Instagram at Ryan Bennett Coaching or Apex Coaching Australia and flick me a DM. Or yeah, just go to the website apexcoaching.com.au/watch this. Watch the video, book in for a call, and then we can have a chat and come up with a plan specifically for you. But if you want to do better, now is your chance. I just want to throw in as well, because this isn't like a fuck those guys, they set me up kind of thing. Like, it was actually a very good conversation, which I didn't know. Heading in, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I still don't know what will happen until it's all chopped up and actually aired. So, I cross my fingers that I represented myself well. But at the end of the day, there's no bad press, so whatever. But everyone from the actual production was awesome. Producer, awesome. Host, awesome. Cameraman, sound man, everyone was absolutely great. And realistically, they're putting together a documentary that really has nothing to do with the ABC. I don't know if they've given them guidelines. I don't know what angle they're approaching it from either. So I actually don't know until it airs, and then I guess we'll see then. But I did just want to say this isn't like fuck those guys, they set me up. Like, it was actually a really nice day. I actually really got on with the guy, and I think that's what tripped him up so much. He was like, oh, we could actually be mates. Like, we have very similar beliefs, very different beliefs, and that's absolutely fine. I think the big thing was we were both open to talking about it. I'm not set in my ways. Like, I genuinely asked him for feedback, and I was like, well, how can I make it come across so that people don't think that I'm some piece of shit misogynist? But I think that's more of a group categorizing thing. I just get labeled because I talk about masculinity. He actually said, it's funny, what you talk about, you could say to women as well. And I'm like, no, I know. And he said, as a businessman, like, I can see that would be quite annoying to know, because you're leaving 50% of the market on the table. And I was like, realistically, the coaches that coach women make so much more money, because women typically, get around it and share it with their friends, and then they have 5 referrals. And whereas men were a little bit more isolated, the referrals are a little bit slower. But it's very true. Like, if I coached women, I would say the same shit. It's all just about personal empowerment and taking responsibility. And if it's not stepping up as a man, it would be stepping up as a woman, So that's why I have no beef with all the, whether you can work or not, or like, I don't care about that. I genuinely like that women have become empowered. What I don't like is that sometimes feminism, and this is what someone said the other day, which was quite insightful, feminism has actually been one of the worst things for femininity, because instead of like, stay at home and take care of your husband, it's like, go to work and take care of your boss, right? It's like, oh, well, why would you stay at home and be told what to do by your husband? So then you get a job and you just get bossed around by another man all day? And stepping into that more masculine role of wearing the stress and the burden, and that is what I see as a masculine role, like putting out fighting the battles, putting out the fires, wearing the weight of the world, having that stress, like, that is a very, like, it ages a man, right? So what would it do to a woman? It would make her very hardened and less feminine and more masculine. And I think a very big issue is that men are attracted to feminine women. So if you do have this woman that's very, disgruntled and has a tough exterior, like, a man isn't going to be like, wow, look at her beauty. Like, it's just that's some natural shit. But I have no issue with the other side. I'm open to the conversation, which is, I think, why we got on so well. But definitely the whole, like, I think feminism has affected men, and that is a bit of it's one of the straws that broke the camel's back. It's one of the topics that you can get well into. And my message is just step up as a man, lead your family, you be the masculine one, and wear the weight of the world, so that your woman can actually be in her feminine and enjoy her life, and your children can stay innocent and enjoy their life until they need to step up. Because if you've got a broken home, if you bounce, if you cheat on your wife, like all of that is discipline as a man. Like you shouldn't cheat. Yet if you, like a lot of men are like, oh, I'd never cheat on my wife. But it's like, well, you never offered because you're overweight and you're not very attractive to other women. So having the discipline that you learn from other areas, like you need to not cheat on your wife. And if you have a good relationship and a good marriage, and I think if your gender roles are, as they should be, and there's a masculine and a feminine, and the man's taken care of, and he feels valuable, and his needs are met, and the woman feels valuable, and her needs are met, then like you have an awesome sex life, you have an awesome relationship. It's when it all starts to go upside down and the roles kind of switch. There's, the woman just wants him to step up and be a man. The man just wants to feel like the man, yet he feels emasculated all the time. And that's when shit breaks down. So the only thing that you can do is to step up as a man and become this strong, disciplined, traditional man that, is masculine. But I think I could talk about relationships for a very long time. I think I've talked about them long enough today. But those roles are very important. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in. But go sign up to coaching so I can actually coach you and help you on a personal level and help you overcome your bullshit and take you to fucking greatness, man. Because I have been on the other side. I've been the depressed, broken drug addict that was, just a piece of shit. And now, my life's pretty cool and it's only going to get better. So go sign up for coaching, apexcoaching.com.au/watch this. I'll talk to you soon.